Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of Ignition Time. This is going to be hard to believe, but it is the truth. Here's a new headline of an article from the Wall Street Journal. California Governor Gavin Newsom proposes $400 debit cards for car owners, free transit, and tax cuts for gas taxes. This is pretty incredible when you specifically hear the actual details. Let's get into this. A new $11 billion relief package from California aims to help Californians who are struggling with high gas prices. Welcome to this episode of Ignition Time, everyone. My name is Dr. Chhoda. Let's take a look at what is actually going on. So the governor of California, Gavin Newsom, is proposing a new plan to help ease the burden of higher gas prices on his state's drivers. Now think about this for a second. He's going to give car owners cash and he's going to temporarily provide free public transportation and reduce fuel taxes. Now, this is going to include $400 direct payments to individuals in California per vehicle that they own, and it's going to be capped at 2 vehicles. So if you own 2 cars in California, you should get $800. Now, this proposal does not have an income cap. In other words, if you're making $1 million a year, or if you're making $10,000 a year, you're going to get this money. Now, his plan has been introduced because the average price of regular unleaded gasoline in California is $5.88 a gallon, and some neighborhoods are charging more than $6 a gallon. Now, that's compared with the national average of $4.24 a gallon. Now, as you know, gas prices have hit record highs after Russia invaded Ukraine, and lawmakers in other states are also pushing to pause or reduce gas taxes. And at the federal level, some members of Congress are actually asking the Biden administration to suspend federal taxes on fuel. So gas prices in California are actually higher than other states in general. An average individual in California, an average driver, spends about $300 in gas excise tax in a year, according to the governor's office. So what Gavin Newsom is doing is he's proposing a tax refund, which would take the form of $400 debit cards for registered vehicle owners, including those who own electric vehicles, with individuals eligible to receive up to 2 payments. These rebates would actually cost the state $9 billion. Yes, you heard that right. They'll cost the state $9 billion. Now, there are 35.6 million registered vehicles in California, and this is 2021 data, and about 22 million vehicles would be eligible for these rebates. Now, certain vehicles, such as fleet vehicles and those registered to companies, are not eligible for this proposal. In fact, Newsom's proposal also includes $750 million to provide Californians free public transit for 3 months. In addition, $1.1 billion to reduce fuel taxes and $500 million towards projects that promote biking and walking. So the transit grants actually apply to bus, subway, and light rail riders. Newsom said this, that direct relief will address the issue that we are struggling to address. The Newsom administration said that it's going to meet with lawmakers in California to try and negotiate the details of the proposal. And if everything works out, money will start flowing through to Californians in July. Now, is something like this happening in your state? Let me know in the comment section below. In the meantime, Republican James Gallagher, who's a minority leader of the California State Assembly, said that Mr. Newsom's plan to help ease the impact of higher gas prices would take too long. He said, July? Really? That's what he said. And California Republicans are instead pushing to suspend the state's 51 cent per gallon gas tax. Now, other states like Maryland, Connecticut, and Georgia are temporarily cutting state gas taxes to try and ease the burden on their citizens. In fact, state lawmakers in Florida actually approved a measure earlier this month that suspends the state's 25 cent per gallon tax for gasoline in October. And this comes after the end of the state's busiest tourist season. Also, lawmakers in these states, Illinois, Massachusetts, Maine, Michigan, Minnesota, New Hampshire, New York, and Tennessee are also considering suspensions of the gas tax. Now, there are a lot of critics of this suspension idea, and critics say that if gas taxes are suspended, oil companies might raise the price of fuel if the federal gas tax is paused. And others point out that the gas tax only makes up a small part of the overall tax of gasoline. And suspending gas taxes at the state level also would mean that the states would have less money to spend on mass transit and road and highway maintenance unless they get the money in some other way. This is a very difficult situation for all of us, folks. It's difficult for individuals who are trying to simply put gas in their vehicles to get to work, and it's difficult for lawmakers because if they try and ease the burden one way, they create a burden in another way. And in fact, a lot of state officials are saying that gasoline tax suspensions are one of the few tools that they have to try and provide drivers with some relief. What do you think is the solution here? Now, California, by the way, has hundreds of billions of dollars in surplus funds after getting all the money that they got from the American Rescue Plan. California and New York, by way of their population, because they have so many individuals, received hundreds of billions of dollars, more so than other states, because the way money was distributed to the states in the American Rescue Plan was based on population. And because California has a lot of excess money, not only because of the hundreds of billions of dollars they got from the American Rescue Plan, they also have a lot of high net worth individuals who pay a lot in terms of taxes. In fact, California had a surplus in terms of their revenue despite COVID, because a lot of the rich individuals, a lot of these executives, individuals who work in management positions, continued to work from home, continued to make money, continued to pay taxes. And when the federal government gave California money through the American Rescue Plan, California was flush with cash, which is why Gavin Newsom can even afford to do this, which is kind of ironic when you think about it, because people in states across the country are getting squeezed at the gas station. This is a very difficult situation, and it has been made worse by the current affairs, specifically the Russian invasion of Ukraine. I am confident that all of this will ease, but it is unfortunate that the country seems to be bouncing from one crisis to another. First, we deal with this horrible pandemic. Once we get through the pandemic, we start dealing with all sorts of unemployment issues. Then we start dealing with inflation. Then we start dealing with war in Europe and high gas prices. A very difficult situation for all of us as Americans, and I hope and I pray that we get through this very quickly. I anticipate that we will be fine, but the next 6 months are going to be rather challenging. Thank you so much for watching. Please click the like button. Please click subscribe. Please enable notifications. I appreciate you. I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next episode of Ignition Time. Take care. Bye.